Juan Seguín fought at the Alamo. He stood with Travis, Bowie, and Crockett during the 13-day siege against Santa Anna's army. He commanded the only Tejano unit at San Jacinto, the battle that won Texas its independence. 18 minutes changed everything. He buried the Alamo heroes with his own hands. He gave the eulogy. He wept over their ashes on a cold February morning in 1837. And then both Texas and Mexico called him a traitor. He died in exile, forgotten for nearly a century. Both countries were wrong. This is the true story of Juan Seguín, the Alamo hero erased from history, the founding father abandoned by the land he created. To understand Juan Seguín, you need to understand one thing first. His family didn't come to Texas. They built it from nothing. The Seguins had lived in San Antonio since the 1720s, 100 years before the Texas Revolution even started. Juan's father, Erasmo Seguín, was the postmaster of San Antonio for nearly 30 years, one of the most powerful men in Texas. In 1821, when Moses Austin wanted to bring American settlers into Texas, Erasmo Seguín personally helped him do it. When Moses died, Erasmo escorted his son Stephen F. Austin into Texas. The two families became close friends and trusted allies. Erasmo was the only delegate from Texas at the Mexican Congress that wrote the Constitution of 1824. He shaped it. The Seguins weren't outsiders. They were Tejanos, Texans of Mexican heritage with deep roots going back more than 100 years. Juan Nepomuceno Seguín was born October 27, 1806, in San Antonio de Besar. This was his home, his birthright. By 22, he was elected alderman. By 27, he was mayor of San Antonio, a rising star in Texas political circles. He married Maria Gertrudis Flores de Abrego from one of San Antonio's most important ranching families. They had 10 children. But in the 1830s, everything changed. Mexico's president, Antonio López de Santa Anna, seized dictatorial power over all. Santa Anna abolished the Constitution of 1824, the very constitution Erasmo Seguín had helped write. They were furious. When revolution came, Juan Seguín didn't hesitate for a moment. He picked a side. He chose Texas. He chose to fight the tyrant. In October 1835, Stephen F. Austin gave Juan Seguín a captain's commission. His mission was to recruit Tejano soldiers. Seguín raised a company of 37 men, native-born Texans who opposed the dictator. Many came from San Antonio's oldest families. His company fought at the Battle of Concepcion. They helped lay siege to San Antonio. On December 9th, General Cos surrendered. But everyone knew Santa Anna would return with vengeance. And in February 1836, he did. Thousands of soldiers marched north. When Santa Anna's army arrived, Juan Seguín was inside the Alamo. He stood with Travis, Bowie, Crockett, and about 200 men. There were at least 15 other Tejanos inside those walls. They weren't outsiders fighting someone else's war. This was their home. On February 25, 1836, Colonel William Travis called Seguín to him. He had a mission, the most dangerous one yet. Travis needed someone to slip through Mexican lines and ride for reinforcements. Someone who spoke Spanish, someone who knew this land. Seguín borrowed James Bowie's horse and rode into the night. If he was caught by Mexican soldiers, he would be executed as a traitor. He made it through the enemy lines. But when he reached Gonzales and tried to gather help, he learned the terrible truth at last. No reinforcements were coming. The men inside the Alamo were on their own. There was nothing anyone could do to save them now. Seguín tried to ride back to the Alamo anyway, but before he could reach San Antonio, word came. The Alamo had fallen. Everyone dead. Let that set you in for a moment. Seguin survived the Alamo only because Travis sent him away. His friends were all gone forever. Travis, Bowie, Crockett, men he had fought beside, men he had shared meals with, all of them burned in a pile by Santa Anna's orders. But there was no time for grief. Santa Anna's army was advancing east. Sam Houston ordered all Texans to retreat, the runaway scrape. Seguin organized a new company in Gonzales. Houston gave him a critical job: rear guard, protect the fleeing families from the cavalry. For weeks, Seguin's men were the last line between terrified refugees and the Mexican army. They held the Brazos River crossing firm. Women and children fled through mud and rain. Seguin's Tejanos bought them time. Every hour mattered. Every mile counted for survival. Then came April 21st, 1836, the Battle of San Jacinto. Houston's army finally turned around to face the enemy. There was just one problem. Seguin's men were Tejanos. They looked like the enemy. Houston almost ordered them to stay behind entirely. Seguin protested loudly. His men had earned the right to fight. They had bled for Texas just like everyone else. Houston finally agreed, but on one condition. The Tejanos had to wear something to identify themselves in the chaos of battle, something the others could see. So Seguin's company went into battle with playing cards tucked into their hatbands. The only way to avoid being shot by their own side. Think about that. These men had to prove they were Texans while fighting for Texas. Their faces made them suspects even as they died. The battle lasted just 18 minutes. Over 600 Mexican soldiers died. 9 Texans fell. Santa Anna was captured the next day. Sam Houston and General Burleson both singled out Seguin's company for their bravery in official reports. Juan was promoted immediately. He became Lieutenant Colonel Juan Seguín, war hero, patriot, one of the founders of the Republic of Texas. His future looked unlimited. On June 4th, 1836, Seguin rode into San Antonio as a conquering hero. He personally accepted the Mexican surrender there. But one final task remained. The bodies of the Alamo defenders had been burned by Santa Anna's men. Their ashes still lay unburied. On February 25th, 1837, exactly 1 year after Travis sent him away, Seguin led the funeral procession himself. He gave the eulogy in Spanish. His words echoed across the plaza, quote, "They preferred to die 1,000 times rather than submit." He wept as he spoke. These were his friends, his brothers in arms, and he was the one who had to say goodbye to all of them at once. In September 1837, Juan Seguín was elected to the Texas Senate, the only Tejano to ever serve in that body. History made. He chaired the Committee on Military Affairs. He fought to have laws printed in Spanish so his people could understand their own rights. In 1841, he was elected mayor of San Antonio again. War hero, senator, mayor, a founding father at the height of power. On paper, Juan Seguín had everything a man could want: respect, influence, legacy, but beneath the surface, something dark was growing. After independence, Anglo-American settlers flooded into Texas by the thousands. Many had never fought in the Revolution, but they wanted land. Tejano land. And these newcomers didn't see Seguín as a hero. They saw a Mexican, someone who couldn't be trusted. The population shifted fast. In 1836, Tejanos were roughly 1 in 9. By 1842, they were being pushed out. As mayor, Seguin tried to protect Tejano property rights. He fought for his people. This made him powerful enemies among land speculators. Rumors started spreading through San Antonio. Seguin had business contacts in Mexico, normal for any rancher. But they called it treason. They whispered about divided loyalties. They questioned his patriotism. The man who buried the Alamo dead was suddenly under suspicion. Then came 1842. Mexican forces briefly captured San Antonio, and everything Juan Seguín had built came crashing down at once. A Mexican general named Vasquez publicly claimed that Seguín was secretly loyal to Mexico, that he had been helping them all along. A lie. There was no evidence, none at all. But it didn't matter anymore. Seguín's Anglo enemies seized on the rumor and spread it everywhere. Death threats arrived at his home. Vigilante groups formed in the streets. Men who had never fought at the Alamo called him a traitor. Seguín later wrote about this time, quote, "I have been the object of the hatred and passionate attacks of a few disorganizers," end quote. He called his enemies harpy-like, ready to pounce on everything that attracted their rapacious avarice. He was an obstacle to their greed. In April 1842, Juan Seguín resigned as mayor. He feared for his life, he feared for his wife, for his 10 children's safety. He wrote these words, "I had been tried by a rabble, condemned without a hearing. The founding father had become a fugitive in his own city. The man who buried the Alamo dead could not walk the streets of San Antonio. Armed men watched his house. His neighbors turned away fast." And so Juan Seguín made an impossible choice. He gathered his family, he fled Texas, and he crossed south into Mexico to save their lives. He later wrote, "I was forced to seek refuge amongst my enemies." Think about that sentence. Read it again. Let it sink in completely now. The man who fought against Mexico had to flee to Mexico because Texas wanted him dead. The cruelty of history rarely gets more complete. But the moment Seguín crossed the Rio Grande, Mexican authorities arrested him immediately. To them, he was also a traitor. For Texas, he was given 2 choices by Mexican officials: rot in a prison cell forever, or join the Mexican army. There was no third option given, and here's the cruelest irony of all. Santa Anna himself remembered Juan Seguín. The same Santa Anna whose army Seguín had helped defeat. Santa Anna ordered Seguín to serve as punishment. It was personal revenge for San Jacinto, for the 18 minutes that destroyed him. In September 1842, Mexican forces invaded Texas again under General Wool. Juan Seguín was with them. In a Mexican uniform, the man who had accepted Texas's surrender in 1836 rode back into San Antonio in 1842 as an invading soldier. Back in Texas, this confirmed everything his enemies had said about him. See, he was a traitor all along. We knew it from the very start. They didn't know or didn't care that he had been forced at gunpoint, that he had no choice, that Mexico would have killed him otherwise. It got worse. In 1846, the Mexican-American War began. The United States invaded Mexico with overwhelming military force. Juan Seguín, hero of Texas independence, was forced to fight against the United States Army under Santa Anna's direct command once more. Let that sink in deeply. He fought for Texas against Mexico. Then he was forced to fight for Mexico against America, trapped between worlds. He later said he was chased all around the Rio Grande by Texas Rangers. They never caught him alive, but they never stopped hunting either. In 1848, the war finally ended. Mexico lost half its territory, and Juan Seguín wrote a desperate letter to Sam Houston. Houston was now a United States senator. Seguín begged to be allowed to return home. He said he had suffered much. He wanted Texas again. Houston remembered the brave captain from San Jacinto, the man whose company had worn playing cards into battle. He helped arrange a return. In late 1848, Juan Seguín crossed back into Texas at last. He was 42 years old. He had been in exile for 6 years. He settled quietly on land near his father's old ranch in Wilson County. He tried to rebuild his shattered life piece by piece once more. He served as Justice of the Peace. He was elected county judge, small positions for a man who had once been a senator and war hero both. But he was never fully trusted again by the Anglo population. The stain of traitor followed him everywhere he went. It never washed away. In 1858, he published his memoirs, a defense of his life and his choices. He titled them Personal Memoirs of Juan Seguín. He wrote to set the record straight, to tell his side of the story. But few people read it then. History had already moved on without him. Around 1870, Seguín moved to Nuevo Laredo, Mexico, to be near his son Santiago. Santiago had become mayor of the city there. He spent his final years talking about the revolution to anyone who would listen. Witnesses said he would weep when remembering his friends. On August 27, 1890, Juan Nepomuceno Seguín died in Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. He was 83 years old, far from home. He was buried in Mexico, not Texas. The land he had helped create didn't want him back, not even in death. The exile continued forever. For nearly a century, he was forgotten by history books. They focused on Travis, Bowie, and Crockett. The Tejano heroes were erased clean. Some of his own descendants were ashamed of their ancestor. They believed the traitor story. They didn't speak the name Juan Seguín aloud. Then, in 1974, something changed at last. The city of Seguín, Texas, named for him in 1838, made a request. They asked Mexico to bring his remains home. Mexico agreed to the transfer. On July 4, 1976, Juan Seguín returned at last, 86 years after his death, nearly a century too late. But he finally came home to the Texas soil he had fought and bled to create. Today, there's a bronze statue of him on horseback in downtown Seguín. Another one stands at the Alamo itself. His name carved in stone. Highways, schools, and parks bear his name across Texas. In 2020, the State Fair honored him alongside Selena and Beyonce Knowles. His descendants now gather every October at his grave to pay respects. They're no longer ashamed of their ancestor. They finally feel proud. Historian Jesus de la Teja called Seguín a man caught between two countries. Neither one fully accepted him. Neither one claimed him whole. His story forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. What makes someone a real American, a real Texan? Is it blood, or is it sacrifice made? Juan Seguín gave everything for Texas: his fortune, his reputation, his homeland, his family's safety, and Texas called him a traitor anyway. The Texas State Library put it best. Of all the patriots of the Texas Revolution, Juan Seguín had the most troubled relationship with Texas. His name means to follow in Spanish, but in the end, Texas didn't follow him. It abandoned him, and history almost forgot him completely.